What's up, guys? It's your boy Chrysalis here, and today I am going to be doing the latest addition to Chrysalis's Criterions. I apologize for the hair. It's, work hair. What can I do? And that's actually going to be for Japanuary. I'm talking Wim Winders' Perfect Days. A few things, or actually just a couple of things, or maybe three things. Kind of a couple of things when you think about it. Happy New Year, happy 2026. I hope everyone is starting off this year on a good note. If not, well, there's always the rest of the year. And if that doesn't work out, there's always next year, hopefully. As far as the channel goes, I apologize for the lack of activity on my end. The holidays were, well, the holidays, and still getting some stuff with moving, just sorted out and everything, and also just trying to figure out a consistent schedule when it comes to filming videos and whatnot. As far as videos for the month goes, again, I'm still gonna try to keep at it with the Chrysalis's Criterions, and I'm definitely not, like I mentioned when I was doing Roma, I'm not gonna push myself to try to get a new video out every Saturday or what have you. I'm just going to get them done when I can and be satisfied with that. Everything non-Chrysalis's Criterions goes. I'm currently waiting on the final word from the Academy Awards on what the next handful of Best Picture nominees are going to be before I actually get the ball rolling on doing videos for them. It's possible it may end up just being one big ass video, but we'll see. And on top of that, I am going to do a video about what were my top 10 favorite movies of last year at some point this month. I'm going to give you an idea of what movies I'm anticipating for this year, and maybe I get a November and December roundup done, because I'm not going to do both of those individually. I'm just going to try to make one big episode for that as well. So yeah, that's what I got going on. Let's see if I commit to it. Apologies for how sparse videos have been. I'm really trying to work on that, so hopefully 2026 will be my year for videos for the channel. Now with that out of the way, I'm going to talk about Perfect Days, but before I do that, I'm going to go through some Criterions I got during a pre-order at some point, as well as just another Criterion I got because the holidays were generous to me. So just to knock it out, I have not seen any of these four, but I'm looking forward to watching them nonetheless. So this is Pee-wee's Big Adventure. My girlfriend was very excited when this was announced to be in the Criterion collection, since she's a huge Tim Burton lover. Just loves Tim Burton, everything Tim Burton. I personally have not seen this yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's got Paul Rubens in it, and it is probably his most iconic role in any movie ever. So yeah, shout out to Tim Burton and yeah, etc. This is Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. I probably even need to tell you, this is one of the greatest movies of all time from what I understand. Certainly one of the greatest movies from the 90s, starring Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. I believe this is actually, this one and a movie called Birth marks the fourth movie where Nicole Kidman has a lead role in a movie in the Criterion collection, which is pretty cool. I pretty much love Stanley Kubrick. I love Dr. Strangelove. Really love Barry Lyndon. I got to watch The Shining in IMAX last year, and that was awesome. I'm a Kubrick head. Well, not really a Kubrick head, but certainly a Kubrick enjoyer as I delve deeper and deeper and deeper into his work. So yeah, looking forward to this for sure. Howard Hughes' Hell's Angels. I think this is actually the oldest 4K in the Criterion collection. I could be horribly wrong. I mean, there's definitely older movies in the Criterion collection, but as far as their 4K collection is concerned, this is probably the oldest one. I'm semi-familiar with this because of the Martin Scorsese movie, The Aviator, where this was a huge plot point at one point or another, so looking forward to eventually diving into this and seeing what was so influential about it and everything. And this was Seijun Suzuki's Branded to Kill. I'm going to be watching this very, 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 very soon because I'm participating in Japanuary. So, yeah, I don't really know much about it. Seijun Suzuki is a newer, well, not really a new director, but new to me in the Japanese, old Japanese cinema, etc. Japanese new wave bad boy Seijun Suzuki delivered this brutal, hilarious, and visually inspired masterpiece to the executives of the studio. He was promptly fired. That's how you know it's a classic. So yeah, gonna watch this very soon. I might watch it today, we'll see. But yeah, those are my recent additions to the collection. I won't be getting any new ones until maybe March or so when a holiday pre-order I did comes through because a certain Martin Scorsese movie got added to the collection and I'm very excited to finally get it. So yeah, huge shout out to the Criterion Collection as always, especially for making this particular 4K pressing or whatever you want to call it of Wim Winders' Perfect Days. If you're not to know who Wim Winders is, he's one of the more kind of outsider but also just well-known and just acclaimed directors of all time. He's made a lot of really good movies over the years, definitely had a handful of other documentaries under his belt. He's probably best known for, if not for this movie, he's most definitely best known for Paris, Texas, a movie that I have the 4K for, but I have not watched yet, but, you know, I'm going to be rectifying that very soon, eventually. But from what little I know about Paris, Texas, the protagonist largely doesn't really say a whole lot, and it's like a slow-going, just slow burner movie that is kind of sad and in a way, and that it sounds up my alley, so I'm gonna definitely check that out soon. But from what little I understand about that movie, it definitely sounds very familiar after I've watching Perfect Days, since our protagonist is also not really a chatterbox at all. Our protagonist is a janitor for this public toilet company called the Tokyo Toilet Project, and he's just a simple guy that lives in his little apartment area, and he's got his little routine, he's got his music, he's got his books, and that's all he needs. Our protagonist Hariyama, played by the ever so talented Koji Yakusho. I had to look at the back as a refresher. He just does such a marvelous job just playing this really quiet recluse. Not really a recluse per se, just a guy that's in his own lane. He's cut off all technology. He's just doing his own thing and just, I wouldn't really say settling for less, more so just living a simple and honestly a pretty commendable lifestyle in its stress-free life. This guy does not have a worry in the world. Well, for most of the movie anyway. There are points of the film where there does exist like some kind of conflict because even though he's happy with his life, he does get lonely from time to time, as evidenced in the whole sequence where his niece comes over to visit, and then eventually her mother comes over to pick her up from the niece's like unexpected visit. Hello, friend. Say hello to YouTube, Esme. You, my dark void of fluff. Alright, you don't like that. But yeah, in a way, the plot-wise, there does seem to be like a brief little brush with the whole idea of man versus isolation. In the interview with Wim Winders that is on this disc, and while I'm at it, like the bonus features are kind of sparse for what I'm familiar with Criterion. The 4K disc has like next to nothing on it except for like, you know, setup for subtitles and stuff. And the Blu-ray, in addition to having the movie, has an interview from Wim Wenders, an interview from Koji Yakusho, and an interview with Koji Yanai, who is the founder of the Tokyo Toilet Project. Since I neglected to talk about it, I should probably go ahead and say my piece about the Tokyo Toilet Project. Obviously, it's, you know, a great idea, a art project that also serves a public good. I think that's just rad. It's just a shame that we don't really have that in the US, but I think part of the reason we don't is because we are, as a community, us Americans, are not to be like trusted with such a, a common good, is something that is just would be beneficial to everybody. But here in this movie, you can see how it's just great, right? Just amazing. And it's just commendable that you see how Hirayama is just so committed to that job in particular. And I think, in a way, you don't see that much principle and just willingness to do a job like that here, like, at all. Like, yeah, you have like janitors and stuff, but even then you're starting to slowly see certain tasks like mopping the floor and everything at gas stations replaced by automation, when obviously the automation is never going to be as great as, say, a person that just takes pride in their work. And yeah, obviously it's hard to take pride in your work when your job is cleaning toilets and stuff, but someone's got to do it, and that's just kind of lost in society. And that also is part of the reason why you end up just really feeling for this guy. He's sacrificing so much to do something that is for the greater good in a way. I mean, it also probably just so happens to work with the schedule and everything. But even then, like, regardless of what job you take, you should just take pride in your work, because, otherwise, you're not really any different than a machine. There's also a short film in the movie, like, I think it's like 10 minutes long or something like that, revolving around the actual Japanese dancer that has a role in this movie as a homeless guy whose name I'm not remembering at the moment, but I will put it in the captions for sure. And it's a really cool little piece. It's like 10 minutes or so. There's actually an intro where Wim Winders explained how it was unfortunate he wasn't able to do enough with him in the main movie, so they did that whole like 10-minute piece, which I think they filmed in like 30. The short film itself is in black and white, kind of resembling the dream sequences that are in Perfect Days, which I'll get to in a minute. It's just a really neat, surreal piece overall. Really dug the haunting music in it as well. Certainly it gives a different tone to what the dream sequences were originally in the film, where they're mostly silent and they're just like a recap of his entire day. The only moment where the dream sequences aren't really silent are when he puts on Lou Reed's Perfect Day in the background as he falls asleep. I do want to note the significance of music, or just art in general, in this movie as well. As I said, he's got his music, which he listens to at home and listens to in his van when he's out and about, and he's just, like I said, just chill for the most part. He also listens to his music on cassettes, not CDs, not on his iPod or what have you. Cassettes. He has a cassette player in his house and in his car. And there's a point of the movie where his coworker, they decided to go take some of his cassettes to see how much they're, valued at like secondhand stores and everything. I think there's like a little cassette store, I would assume in like Akihabara or wherever it is they go. And these are pretty expensive cassettes. Like, these are even translated in US dollars, where one of the cassettes is like 120 bucks. And to me, like, that one moment feels like you really just can't put a price on physical media and just art in general, in a way. It's valued for like so many dollars, but once you give that up, there's not really any means of getting it back unless you just use the same money or just get more money to get it back, because now that cassette is probably selling at that store for like twice the amount you sold it for. It just goes to show how much our protagonist Hirayama just really understands the intrinsic value of things, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. He's a big fan of a lot of just the oldies, or oldies to us, but probably like music that were of his time during his contemporary years. Quite a bit from the 60s and 70s. His music includes music from Patti Smith, Lou Reed, The Velvet Underground, The Animals, and Nina Simone, which ends up being like the song that carries the film out as it ends, and actually the only song that plays from beginning to end at any point in the movie. Whereas with other songs, you end up getting like the first verse or like the first couple verses or like a loop of the chorus or something like that. It's the I'm Feeling Good song that plays, because despite his brush with some anxiety from his coworker quitting all of a sudden and having to do like a whole extra shift when he normally doesn't, him talking to a man that has cancer and is going to die, his encounter with his niece, which leads to the encounter with his sister, who he's not seen in a long time. And Winders actually wrote like an entire biography for this guy that we don't really get to see in the movie. We just have to infer from the belongings of his extended family, or I guess technically his immediate or his only family actually, who he is and where he's been and everything. The biography that Wim Winders talks about as it pertains to our character Hirayama reveals that he used to be a rich guy, rich businessman, had a wife, and they got estranged, and one day he just didn't want that life anymore. He just left and just lived a life of like routine and just quietness and everything else. It makes me question how bad or just how unhappy we have to be in order to like just, you know, torch it and just do like the whole like Phoenix thing and like just burn it all down and start over. It certainly seemed to work out for him, for sure. That is 100% certain. Even if, again, he's lonely at certain points. But you see it at the end when he's crying, listening to the Nina Simone song, and, you know, he's feeling good. He's smiling, but tears are in his eyes, and at the end of the day, he enjoys the life he has, and he's going to make the most of it. Sometimes less really is just more. Sometimes we don't need to have like all of these things. We don't need like fancy cars. We don't need a big house and money and everything else. He's kind of just cut himself off from all that, and his life is all the better from it, based on like the character that he used to be. Part of the reason that he hired Yakusho is the fact that he's just really good at acting with his eyes. And if you watched any of other movies that has Koji Yakusho in it, Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure immediately comes to mind, that you can definitely see what he means. Since he's a character of so little words, he has to do a lot of acting through his body language and his eyes and everything else, and he just knocks it out of the park. I don't really know what to say other than that. If you couldn't already tell, this is not really like an action-packed movie, right? It's a chill, kind of sort of ambient film in a way. This is because Winders wanted to channel, when making this movie, the great Yasuhiro Ozu, whose name I probably butchered. And if you don't know Ozu, you should definitely get on it, especially during Japanuary. He's put out really good movies like Late Spring, Tokyo Twilight. I think Tokyo Story is another movie. Late Spring is one I'm the most familiar with, since it's the only Ozu I've watched so far, but I'm going to rectify that soon. And it's not really an action-packed movie. It's not like super deeply dramatic or anything. It's just, you know, life, or at least life as he depicts it. But his like less is more approach, similar to what's in this movie, ends up working out really well in Late Spring, and the same way it works out well with Perfect Days. You just get like a super deeply impactful film that like I still don't have the words for, even so many months or so after watching Late Spring. In the interview with Wim Winders, he talks about how he essentially watched his entire filmography one day when he was able to visit Japan. And you can definitely tell, like, again, a lot of his influence shows in this movie. And it's not just like the pacing or the camera work, it's also just how normal life is, and also just reflects how a lot of that is embodied in Hirayama. You can definitely tell Ozu is a big influence for this film, because the closest thing Hirayama gets to a crash out is going on his phone, and I feel like this is probably one of the only couple of times you ever see him on the phone with his employer, letting him know that he's not doing a double ever again. But as stern as he was when he is talking on the phone, he's just still courteous regardless. And again, like, to kind of capture more of Ozu's essence, the movie is filmed like as a documentary. Everything from the aspect ratio and how the camera follows Hirayama around, it just feels like, a classic documentary. Which makes sense, because I think they originally wanted this to be a documentary, but I think Winders was only given like just a handful of weeks to do it, so he told himself, okay, well, I need a script because I can do something better in 16 days. And we got this. And Winders made something that, from the outside looking in, we can only feel like the one American tourist that don't really know how the bathrooms work, or we feel like the coworker that is just so obsessed with ratings, or the girlfriend or the romantic interest of the coworker that is so engrossed in the music but it just can't really find it on Spotify or what have you. And we may even feel like, say, the niece that for a second looks at her uncle with disappointment, or just, how generally one would feel about seeing a janitor thinking, man, I'm glad I'm not that guy. When, honestly, they kind of probably do wish they were that guy, just living the peaceful life of routine. He takes his pictures, he listens to music, he stops by the restaurant to get a glass of water and some food, and, that's his thing. And it's deeply impactful for a lot of people that are just so flooded by the noise of our day-to-day, especially after COVID, when it just kind of got worse. Even if you don't really find specifically a Criterion copy of this movie, I definitely still recommend giving this a watch if you just want to sit back and unwind and just watch peace, and then think to yourself, that could be me one day, and maybe it will be me one day. But yeah, that's kind of all I got. I think this is a phenomenal film. What do you guys think of Perfect Days? Do you love this movie? Where does it rank in your Wim Wenders films? I myself are currently in the midst of trying to watch more of his stuff. I'm definitely curious about his work, especially Paris, Texas, which I still need to watch. And yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for watching this video, and if you caught my other Criterions, then what Criterion should I consider covering next? And yeah, like I said, that's all I got. And I mean it this time. This is your boy Chrysalis here, signing off.